JK Rowling is outraged, apparently, that a trans organization gives teens chest binders. She's gone beyond the pale. What's happening here?
So the Telegraph, which is a sort of newspaper in the UK, released a story that talked about how chest binders, a garment that is worn to minimize the chest area for either females or non-binary individuals or trans mask individuals. These garments are designed to provide compression in the chest area, much like a compression garment anywhere that would be worn anywhere else. The article from the Telegraph basically was an anonymous adult posing as a 14-year-old seeking information from the trans affirming organization Mermaids in the UK. And the story release basically said that the binders are essentially child abuse, that they're providing binders without any parental consent to trans mask or non-binary individuals. Rowling picked up on this and just jumped at the chance to basically point out that, this is an organization that doesn't know what they're doing, that they are providing this stuff without, oversight, that they're doing this, advising people on medical procedures and on puberty blockers, and going on and on about these things. Now, the entire rest of the week, many different organizations came out and said, no, this is not child abuse, including the police. There was actually reports of child abuse sent into the police that had to be refuted by the police. This is not child abuse. These binders are compression garments that are similar to compression garments that are worn other places, and therefore they do not fall under a child abuse description.
Mm-hmm. And really, in all honesty, a binder is not that terribly different than a good sports bra.
I mean, it could be. It can be. All right, let me rephrase this. Reset. A binder should only be worn for a set amount of hours during the day. It is not designed to be worn overnight during sleeping. It is designed to be worn underneath the day clothing as people go out into public to provide that compression to change and alter the appearance just enough to deal with the dysphoria that comes from, having a larger breast area. So you're not supposed to wear these things for more than 12 hours, by my best understanding. They should be taken off regularly to allow the tissues to, experience normal functioning. But any compression garment should not be worn for a prolonged period of time because they all can do the same type of damage, and they all should be worn with that limited understanding. They can only be worn for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the same is true. That's another reason that the sports bra analogy is probably a pretty good one, is like a lot of those are too tight to be worn for a long period of time. The same thing as Chad is bringing up with a girdle or a corset. These are binding garments that it's not safe to wear too long. Well, but it's also not unsafe for them to be worn at any time. Like if you're within those recommended guidelines, there's nothing unsafe about it. There's nothing harmful. And I know, I'd like to get your opinion on this about the commenting on hormone blockers and things like that. Like, why is it inappropriate for an organization that doesn't have a medical license to talk about the options of things like, puberty blockers and things like that? Isn't it basically essentially, if you don't have a medical license to prescribe it, you can't prescribe it, and so people can't get it. They would have to go through a medical professional regardless. So it sort of doesn't matter what you say, right?
Not necessarily, because there are many cases that I know of here in the U.S. of people going off market to get hormones
Mhm.
and to be able to get testosterone, to be able to get estradiol, to be able to get progesterone. And it's most likely possible that puberty blockers could be achieved, could be, gained in the same way, going off market without a prescription and be able to gain them. It is also not good practice for an organization that is not medically trained or medically licensed to provide what would be considered medical advice. When we're talking about puberty blockers, that is definitely an issue of there are side effects that need to be taught upon. There are side effects. I am not denying the presence of side effects. We have known these side effects because the main puberty blockers that have been in use for almost 40 years. So we do know some of the very well-known side effects from that. So you have to talk about that. You have to talk about dosage. You have to talk about body type, because when we are talking about medication, we're not just talking about, oh yeah, there is this medicine that does this thing, you should talk to your doctor about that. No, when you get to your doctor is going to talk about, okay, here are the risks that are involved. Here are the potential side effects that you could experience. Here are the limits to what you could experience on this that would be more in line with what you're wanting from this, as well as because of your size, because of your body chemistry, because of your body makeup, we need to get you on the right dosage. So, for
Mhm.
example, I know some trans women who are on like 6 milligrams of estradiol. Now, I am not ashamed to say I'm a big gal. All right. I'm at 5'7, I'm at 230. I have a very heavy frame. I'm on 3 milligrams of estradiol because anything above that sends me over the limits.
Mm.
And so I have to have a lesser dosage compared to somebody else who may be a smaller person. I don't know what you're on, Emily, but I know that there are some people who are smaller than me who are taking 5 and 6 milligrams a day. And that's
Yeah.
what they're
Yeah.
prescribing.
I am higher than you, and I want to go higher because I'm still not having very much
Yeah.
response with my body. It's just the makeup of our bodies react differently. My base question is, there's a lot to be said about providing information of what to talk to a doctor about,
Yes.
and I guess just sort of where is that important distinction of something that could be very helpful for somebody versus something that is somehow going to push people over the edge to go and want to do it on their own. Like I feel like that's completely up to the individual to take the information that they get from an organization that isn't licensed or from an online source
Right.
and go the route of doing in their own gray market or black market
Right.
HRT.
Here's okay, for an example, whenever I was an EMT, I was certified to use a certain limited set of medications for interventions. I could not go into someone's house, let's say they were having an asthma attack, and I administer albuterol in a breathing treatment to them. I am not qualified to say you need to go to your doctor and get on albuterol. Just because this person had a positive effect from what I was doing with them does not necessarily mean that what I can do for them is to actually tell them to go to their doctor and say, you need to get on this, and then go to the doctor and say, oh, I had this EMT who told me that I needed to get on this. No, that's not how this works. An organization can say, here's what puberty blockers could do in your life, but you have to discuss this with, and now when we're talking about adults, adults can talk about this with their general providers. But when we are talking about minors, minors need to see a pediatric endocrinologist, because when we are talking about working with the hormones at that age level, we need those kids to be in touch with people who understand the hormones, the hormone system, how all of it works together. And an endocrinologist is a specialist in that area. So a GP would then give a referral to a pediatric endocrinologist who could speak to that child's situation and offer appropriate guidance.